obviously, the unsettled nature of the Middle East today, which shows so few signs of being able to be settled, is obviously something that I'm fixated on. And I'm convinced that there is no solution to the Middle East that doesn't involve Saudi Arabia and Iran. And pretending that there's a victor-vanquished scenario where, you know, we'll defeat the bad guys and be done with it is nonsense. And it's very hurtful. It simply means these conflicts are going to get worse, not better. You know, those who said we have to just arm the opposition here, you know, arm the Libyans, arm the whatever, forgetting the fact that it was a two-sided conflict, and as you accelerate the capacity of one side, other people are going to accelerate the capacity of the other side, and you were just pouring gasoline on a fire. And that's what happened. I mean, so I would like to see a candidate who would be gutsy enough to say, we have to develop a framework for stability in the Middle East like we did in Eastern Europe. That, yes, it was a Cold War, but it was 40 to 50 years of peace that ultimately allowed those societies to develop the revolutionary capacity to make change from within. That's the only way this is going to end, is if there's an international security framework between Iran and Saudi Arabia, with the great powers supervising, like OSCE was in Europe. On the other hand, the refugee issue is, I think, just something that actually literally keeps me awake at night. The thoughts of this huge migration of people. I just came back from UK, and nobody in Europe knows how to deal with it. If you look at the number of ultra-rightist parties that are developing there, and look at what's happening here, this is a transformative moment in all of our histories in the West. This migration flow out into the region of Europe and now over to Canada and the U.S. And we have to figure out how to deal with it. And the president, you know, wanted to have an emergency summit on countering violent extremism, which I frankly opposed, because it's a problem to be sure, but it's actually minuscule in terms of the reality of the problem we face with mass migration and refugees. There needs to be an international summit on refugees. What do we do? And how do we talk to the Hungarians and the Poles and the Germans and the French about absorbing these populations? And how do we talk to the Lebanese and the Jordanians who still are operating under the assumption, we always do this with a refugee crisis occurs and everybody says, oh, it's temporary. It'll be gone in 5 years. 20 years from now, there's going to be 1 million Syrians living in Lebanon. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to think about it. Everybody wants to live in denial of it. But guess what? They're not going anywhere. There are 30 to 40,000 Syrian babies being born every year now in exile. 5 years later, there are 40,000 Syrian kids born out of Syria who know no home other than Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey. 10 years from now, they'll be 15. And they're going to still be there. We have to figure out how to deal with this, and we have to help the countries in that region and the countries in Europe figure out how to transform themselves to be more receptive to this. And we're just not there yet. Nobody's thinking about this. Nobody thinks 20 years down the road, and I think we've got to do that. And so I'd like to have a presidential candidate who would actually think 20 years down the road, have a vision for the future. Nobody's got one. And so, I mean, those are the things that I think about, and I'm going to stop right there because I think we're getting off the way. Thanks.